Hello, I welcome you all in the lecture series of memory. Today, we are going to extend our discussion on semantic and lexical memory. Previously, we discussed about the episodic and semantic memory in detail, and we learned about the role of autobiographical memory, the nature of autobiographical memory, the role of episodic semantic memory, and the neural structures which are providing an assistance in the semantic and episodic memory. When we talk about the semantic memory, it is very important for us to understand as it involves the meaning of the stimuli. The meaning comes with the perspective of the language, and the language has two aspects in it: the meaning grammar rule, which is the lexical rule, and non-grammatical rule, which also being a part of a non-verbal communication. Now, when we talk about the semantic memory, we have to understand the lexical root which are or lexical processes which are aiding in the formation of semantic memory along with the episodic memory. So, semantic memory, if you define it, it is broadly defined as general knowledge of the world, which we acquire, which we experience, which we consolidate over a period of time. When we move from north of India to south of India, when we move from east of India to west of India, lot of experiences, cultural differences, cultural variation, this neurodiversity, we experience and we consolidate in our memory system. This semantic memory is supported by a separate neurocognitive system. When we talk this as a separate neurocognitive system, we refer and we recommend that it is different from the episodic memory system. Now, understanding this thing, one thing is very clear that the two types of memory may be having a distinct neural structures. There might be some similarity, no doubt, but at the neural level they have a very distinct and unique neurocognitive architecture framework. This distinct neuroarchitectural framework depend upon the different type of other cognitive systems. So, when we are talking about the other type of cognitive system, then attentional system, perceptual system play a major role in such a task. And this is why the decision making, the problem solving, reasoning skill, all these processes vary, and in an individual, even when two individuals are sharing the similar world or similar environment or similar scenario or context together. This episodic memory has a temporal dynamics in it, which means that it is dependent on the time framework. Time is an important attribute in the case of the episodic memory, and the important feature related to retrieval from the past plays a crucial role. So, from the past, when we are retrieving an information, then this is dependent on the temporal time frame. Some time frame it is easy for us to recall, some time frame it is very difficult for us to recall. In previous lecture we understood that some nature of information such as emotional information holds assist in the retrieval and also holds robust processing for a long period of time. So, the nature of the information, if it is emotional in nature or if it is aversive in nature, these type of information get stored, get consolidated in a system for a long period of time. See, the part of the semantic memory we attribute the attribute of the retrieval is truth about the world, the facts, the figures, which we have been discussing in the previous lecture as well. So, when we are talking about such facts and figure or when we are talking about the events like when we used to play football in our school and we have been awarded. So, the awarded event is personal to us and it is very dynamic in nature, which we retrieve it from time to time. So, semantic information, when it is holding information about the world, we could understand the nature of the information, complexity of the information, diversity of the information decides also the consolidation of the semantic information. So, when such aspects are there, we would like to address the issue of lexical memory, the memory associated with the lexical processes, which is the grammatical processes, the grammar rules which is being followed in the language. Now, in many cases people have been talking about that lexical root or lexical memory or lexical processes seems to be dominant. it should be noteworthy here that this is not the scenario. The lexical root is being studied heavily, however non-lexical root is also being equally studied in this in the domain of in the domain of memory processes. Now when we are talking about the lexical and non-lexical, as a reader and as a student, you have to understand when the grammatical rules are being followed, when the grammar rules are being followed, then we address the problem of lexical processes. The lexical processes is talking about the grammar rule, this syntax, the nature, verb object, subject verb object positioning. Mostly you may have seen this type of abbreviation when people have been talking about subject verb object or subject object verb. Subject generally comes at the beginning. So this type of nature we generally tend to follow in the lexical pathway. So any form of literacy of literate, and when these studies are being conducted in the area of memory, you know, the information need to be consolidated, the information need to be experienced, recall is, because recall is required, retrieval is required, and in this case the list of words and non-words and pseudo words are being given. In this case, when the words, pseudo words, non-words are given to the participants, it is very important for as a researcher to ensure that the participant is able to understand the meaning of the words and should be able to distinguish these words with the non-words or the pseudo words. Now when we are talking about such a rule, definitely the literacy come into play, and individual who are registering, encoding and storing these list of words should be have a clear understanding about the language and its processes, grammar and its processes. Then those individuals where the list of words or the distinction or discrimination between the words and the non-words is not required, in those case we tend to do a study which do not involve the literacy, but a non-lexical pathway grammar rule. Without the grammar rule it should be there. So in that case matching task generally we do, and in this matching task we use the visual matching task. Visual matching task is there, or visual search is there, where an individual has to search an item among the list of many items. So if I say here so many cartoons are there, among these different cartoons, if I say a girl with a ponytail or a boy with an orange shirt, so such information is visual in nature, does not have to follow a lexical route or lexical pathway, as you can see here. However, if I give you an information related to grammar rule, you know, or information related to the some meaningful information such as 3-month-old child or 5-year-old child or 3-year-old girl, then following such information you try to do the task. Now these type of lexical memory or semantic memory, when we are talking about it, they are having a direct root or declarative memory is there. So they tend to follow this consolidation, the type of long term memory which is a declarative memory. The other nature of the memory, the other types of the memory which we discussed previously was the non-declarative memory. The non-declarative memory we did not discuss, but in some instances we have been taking their examples. So non-declarative memory, any memory that can be verbalized and includes both the episodic and the semantic memory, because the declarative memory is being divided into two types of memory. We have discussed this thing earlier also. When we talk about the lexical memory, it is related to the concept of the semantic memory, because as I said, it involves meaning, it involves some concept, the idea, the schema, meaningful information, and also the grammar rule has to be followed. That is why the lexical memory has to be part of it. So lexical memory refers to the memory system where the words and other linguistic entities. When we talk about the other linguistic entities, one has to understand we are not only limiting to grammar rule, but there might be many more things. So one such is the meaningful sound and meaningful object, meaningful word. So you know, phoneme, grapheme, morpheme are being extensively used in the language. which are the can be part of it. Linguistic entities if you talk about, then the subject, verb, object also becomes the the elements, become the linguistic elements, subject, object and verb. So the meaningful items provide an assistance to the semantic memory. When they are meaningful in nature, when they are following a grammar rule, it becomes easier for an individual to remember and keep the information about their environment easily. These grammar rules we study from childhood, and as we progress, as we grow older, we tend to use these grammar rules. So if there is any anomaly, if there is any discrepancy in the grammar rule, then the sentence, the information becomes ambiguous in nature, and in that case, once the lexical root is failing, once the lexical axis is becoming interfered or disrupted, then the lexical memory lexical memory is getting compromised. When we talk about these lexical root, words, non-words, such distinction requires a repository. A mental repository is there, a mental repository having the words where the recall, retrieval, recognition can all happen, and that is why this mental repository is, after the encoding, after the storage, we tend to put all these information into our these repository. This repository, mental repository, we call it as lexicon, which is a mental dictionary. So we are having actually a form of mental dictionary to us. So if we talk about the mental dictionary at the different age group, you could see that 3-month-old cannot have a mental dictionary so much. The behavioral pattern can only be seen, language is not there at all. People start to, the kids, the infants start to babble, and after the babbling, then the production of speech starts to come after 1.5 years. So you can see that in 18 months 5 to 40 words are there, though in some instances kids after 1 year can come up with few words like mama, papa, but as they grow older, then they come with some more basic words like food, water, poo, bath, etc. Then 2 years 150 to 300 words, 3 years 900 to 1000 word, 4th year 20,000 word, 5 year identify the letters and creates the sentences. And as we grow older, it has been noted that a fully grown person is having a mental lexicon with 1 lakh words. Now this 1 lakh words more or less depends on the association, depends on the networking, noding, the weightage, the familiarity, frequency, dominance, many other parameters are there, and also as we said, many information does not require the lexical root, but they may also require non-lexical root in that scenario. So this number may vary from subject to subject. What is the capacity of the mental dictionary? Could be roughly around 1 lakh words one can keep an information to. Collin and Quillen in 1969 were more curious to understand how this the mental repository actually works, and what is what is the need, what is the attribute this mental dictionary should be looking for, so that it can expand itself. And remember, when the mental dictionary is having when you are having lot of experiences, when you are having more information about the world, your mental dictionary starts to expand and expand and expand. More and more you use your more and more you experience, larger your mental dictionary becomes. If you are multilingual, then your mental dictionary will be definitely bigger than the monolingual individuals who are speaking one language. Compared to the multilinguals who are speaking more than 2 languages. When we talk about the hierarchy, Collin proposed this interesting hierarchical network model, and he said that our mental dictionary or mental repository depends upon the hierarchical network, and this network can be how deep this network is, how far this network is going, how connected this network is, depends on many other parameters. This type of networking model which Collin proposed, if you remember in the long term memory, we were just talking about the non-declarative memory. This non-declarative memory, we were having the associative memory. Now associative learning and memory is a very established concept and idea. We discussed this with respect to the Pavlovian's dog conditioning experiment, where dog started to associate the food with the bell, with the researcher, with the context, with the bowl, with the smell, and all these association, any one of these association or activation of one of these network can trigger the other network as well. So if we talk about this associative model, as you can see, information represented in semantic memory terms in terms of connections among the units of information. So there is a network which you are seeing on your screen is there. So if we are talking about a living thing, so when we talk about the living thing, then we say what are the living things. So living thing could be an animal or could be a plant. So plant is a living thing, animal is a living thing. Then we talk in detail about plants. Plant is a tree or plant is a flower plant also. In animal we talk about animals are of different types. So bird is also belong to the category of animal, fish also belong to the category of animal. Now some of you may say that this animal category could have been further divided into mammalian and non-mammalian animals, and then further down the mammalian and non-mammalian, then we would have been given this classification. So understand one thing, this networking which you are seeing here, hierarchical networking model, is different from for different individual. It depends upon our understanding, it depends of our categorization and discrimination. So my perception of the world will be very different from your perception of the world. Perception is just getting the attaching the meaning to the incoming sensory information in an orderly fashion. So when we are doing the ordering, then ordering can be based on subjective experiences and subjective understanding and knowledge. So here the classification, maybe at the beginning I am not adding the mammalian and non-mammalian, but after few years I may even bring more categories to this with the mammalian and non-mammalian categories. If we talk about the plant, then we have said that it could be tree, it could be flower. Now when we talk about the tree, then we know it could be pine tree or it could be oak tree or it could be mango tree, simple as it is. So when we talk about the mango tree is also green, pine tree is also green, oak tree is tall. Then we can also think about where these mango tree, oak tree, pine tree are growing. If we talk about this, then we could say mango, UP, pine, Uttarakhand, oak, different place. So this distinction which we are making, we are associating, you will see that each of these idea and concept is actually branching out in different direction. So one branch is saying that living things grow. So generally anything which is growing is living thing. In that case there is a living thing and non-living thing also. So here what we are saying is only about the living thing, non-living things also grow. The question is no. So that is how the association and networking is built out. Then we talk about living things, then we have come to plants. So plant has roots, animal does not have roots, animals have legs, animals have skin, animals have eyes, plants do not have eyes. So such extension, such elaboration seems to happen, and the association is happening in several directions. As you can see here, the birds are having feathers, fish are having gills and scales which help in the swimming. So when we talk about the fish, then we talk about the trout fish or koi fish. Trout fish is in silver color, koi is in orange. This you can also extend it, and then you can say rohu fish or many other type of fish, which is based on the context. When we talk about the context, then you add the another concept here is the nation, which country it is it available or not. So this is how these things are there. So when we see the blue circle represents the concept, blue arrow represents is a relationship between the concept. This arrow which is being connected, or the this is we are calling it as a connection, and if this connection is active or this connection is active, we tend to give them a weight. Now weight could be 1 or weight could be 0. Now if I am saying please tell me a living thing which is having a gill and can be found in a water. So then a living thing which is having a gill, so this has to be a fish. Animal, in the animal category, birds do not have a gill, birds have a wings. So this selection when we are talking about, so from living thing to animal you have weighted 1, and when we are talking about the gill, so animal to bird, because it is not birds do not have a gill, so we weigh them 0. This node becomes inhibitory, and then from animal we move to fish because fishes are having gill, so we weigh them 1. So the circuit which is excitatory, from here to here it is excitatory, we give them 1, but the circuit which is not excitatory, which is not required, that circuit becomes the inhibitory, and this inhibitory circuit we give them 0. So this is how the weighing is being done, and then the nodes, the meaningful nodes, the bifurcation keep on going on and on and on, and then this is how we do the excitatory and inhibitory coding in the hierarchical network model. Spreading activation, when we talk about this activation from one node to the associated node. So from this node, this point to the another point, this point or this point. So if this A is being bifurcated, then A1 and A2. This is how the activation is spreading again and again, and that is why earlier also we have been talking about this concept and idea that if we try to inhibit the information here, or we try to completely, because this network is inhibited, if we try to completely inhibit this network, then the information related to the birds, see the network, these networks will also be inhibited, and further down the line if these networks are again projected further down the line. So this inhibition, this root inhibition is one thing, but the node inhibition is another thing. The root inhibition, when the root is inhibited, this does not mean that the information is going to be blocked or interfered. There is always an access to it, that is not activated, but in a while it will get activated. But when the node get blocked or interfered, damaged, impaired, dysfunctional, then the information from these two will not reach to this place to move further down the line. So the idea of inhibition and excitation in the neuronal network plays a major role and gives us an understanding how the projection, how the networking is being formed. If we talk about the lexical decision task as the word itself is saying that decision has to be made based on the grammatical rule or grammatical principle. If grammatical rule and grammatical principle is being not followed, then the lexical decision making task is not correct. So here when we are talking about the lexical root decision task, semantic memory, semantic priming is there, which means something which you are already familiar with, meaning of the information, or you hold a certain information, that information is being used to prime you, and if that situation is there, then your response will be better and faster. If you all remember, when we have been discussing earlier, we were talking about the cues, the visual cues, auditory cues, tactile cues, and all. So for the blind person, visual cue cannot be relevant. So visual priming of these cues may not be relevant because these blind individuals do not see. However, the tactile cues and the cues, when these individuals are being primed with these tactile cues, then their performance will has been noticed is better. So similarly, we know that the if the one word or the idea on the processing of related word or the idea is there, then we tend to perform better. So similarity between the two, meaning, you know, many a time when we say like yesterday earlier we were discussing about the categories, different categories were there. There is a fruit category, there is a vegetable category, and then there is a profession category. So if we are talking about the semantic priming, if the list of fruits are being being shown to you and then asked that if you have seen, recognized or recall is there, then in any one of those fruit category, before the any fruit target fruit list category is presented to you, you are being primed with the some other fruits which are not present in the list. In that case your retrieval becomes better and better. So when the list of fruits are mango, orange, apple, grapes, just before these fruits are being presented to you, you are being primed with the fruit like papaya. So the moment papaya is being shown to you just briefly before the presentation of the target words or the target stimuli, you tend to respond quicker. So a related word will activate a target item and allow it to be processed quickly. Then a lexical decision task is a cognitive task in which participants judge whether a string of letter is a word quickly as they can. How they can judge it? Is it a word or is a non-word? So here you can see the person has to press a key. When it is a non-word, they will press a key. Instead of DOW2, if it would have been down and down, these are words. The moment they see such words, they have to press a Z button. Now you know the positioning of the Z and M, it is quite far. So the chances of confusion in pressing the buttons, word for the non-word and non-word for the word button, should be avoided. Young adults can make these decisions in under half seconds, which means that 500 millisecond is enough for the young adults to answer, but for the elderly and for the young kids it may be little bit more. Another aspect is the nonsense string, the string which does not have any meaning to it. So you can see on your screen XFF and XER. So this does not have any meaning. So the idea is that nonsense strings are easier and quicker to reject than possible, but not employed in the non-words. The nonsense string is easy to detect, but we do have still preference over the senseful words, meaningful words, and the words which are easy, which has high frequency, dominance and familiarity. More common words such as doctor are easier to and quicker to verify than the obscure word jejuni. In what scenario, in what context? So such as if the doctor word is being presented to you, hospital, medicine, all these are related words, but these words are being primed with nurse. The moment nurse word comes to your mind, then you start anticipating the associated words. The anticipation of associated words with the nurse goes with doctor, hospital and medicine, unlike the word like jejuni or anything else. Let us say if the priming word is not the nurse, but the priming word is ball, then we will see doctors do not play with the ball, or in hospital you cannot play ball, or playing with ball is not going to provide us medicines. Okay. So this semantic priming seems to give you an help, provide you an aid in the anticipation of the target words. As you can see on your screen, the target word is doctor, related priming word is nurse. So when the nurse is being presented before the doctor, nurse is giving a context, nurse is giving a scenario in which participant understand the following word has to be associated with the nurse. However, when the word like gumble is presented before the doctor, then this is unrelated priming. There is no relationship between the gumble. If we say gambling, Then gambling is also unrelated word to the doctor. Sketching is unrelated word. Cooking, unrelated word. So when these words are being used as a prime, the target word will not be a doctor. For cooking, chef. Gambling, gambler. Sketching, artist. So participants judge if a string of letters in a word, the string is preceded by a prime or not. Related prime produces faster and easier processing of the target word. So the moment the target word is given to you, the moment the prime words are given to you, you start anticipating, and because of your anticipation the process becomes faster and easier. Priming can cross languages. So what has been seen, priming does not depend on the language itself, but it can trigger. What does this mean? So we call water, we call pani, we call panni, we call agua, we call wasser. So what does all these means? All of these words means the water. So priming can cross the languages. If I call wasser, it will activate all these words. If I call pani, it will activate these words. Then the priming is being subliminal priming, where participant is not consciously aware of the priming. How does this work? All of you may have seen a Formula 1 racing car. In the Formula 1 racing car, Ferrari, you may have seen at the back side of the Ferrari, at the tail, there is a barcode. This barcode, what does it indicate? This barcode is actually a subliminal message about the Marlboro cigarette. So the smokers, the moment they see such symbol, which is subliminal in nature, not everybody knows, only for those individuals who are familiar with this sign and symbol, their sensory system will detect and their perceptual system will assign the meaning to this subliminal message, which is hidden, which is present there in the environment. But those individuals who are not familiar with this sign and symbol may not get trigger with these with the presence of these stimuli, but the smokers get triggered and then they go in the smoking lounge, they smoke 2-3 cigarettes and then they come back. Because sports does not promote the substance abuse, alcohol, drug, smoking, etc. So it cannot, Marlboro cannot directly advertise it. So Marlboro uses subliminal messaging technique to encourage their customers to use the substance. Now, so this is a subliminal message which where the participants is not consciously aware of the prime, but the individual who is familiar, they may take the action. Okay, semantic priming can also serve as a marker of a certain neurological impairment. What does this mean? That it can be an indicator that there is certain impairment. When we discuss the case of Henry Mollison, when we discuss the case of SM, when we discuss the case of Casey, we discussed about these neurological impairments, and in these neurological impairments we were talking about the markers which these people were giving. Like in the case of HM, we understood that he was not able to form new memories, but his old memories were intact. Similarly, in SM case, what we observed that she lost the ability to have fear entirely because of the rare genetic disorder. Hypercalcification happened, her both amygdala just got removed, permanently gone at the very young age. As a result, she is not having a fear response. However, but she has the sense of fear, the self, with the self understanding, and we have been talking about this self referential semantic memory, which is a part of autobiographical memory also. So these type of neurological damages, these type of behavioral pattern indicate that there is some sort of neurological impairment is there. So if someone is not able to process semantic priming, then there might be some sort of neurological impairment, and this particular form of neurological impairment we call it as anomic aphasia. This anomic aphasia is a condition in which persons find it difficulty the correct word in a given context. So such thing people have seen. So if the association, as we were telling you about, when the priming is being given, the prime words is given to them, then it becomes little challenging for them to anticipate what could be the target word. Okay. So when we have talked about this aspect of semantic priming, let us spend some time in this sentence verification task. What do we mean in this sentence verification task? We as an individual try to encounter every moment thousands of stimuli. When we are encountering these thousands of stimuli, we ensure that the incoming sensory information is correct or incorrect. So here participants are being asked to decide quickly as possible sentence is true or sentence is false. Sentences reflecting the close link between the nodes will be verified faster. So earlier we were talking about the living, which we divided into plant, animal, and then further down the line we divided fish and the birds, and in the plant we said tree, flower, and so on and on. So reflecting closely linked to the nodes will be verified faster. The nodes, this node is closer to the plant, rather than when we talk about the branch, root, teak, timber, potato, bacteria. Potato can be divided into two: sweet, tasteless. Tasteless is divided into two parts: rural, urban. Sweet can be divided into two. So if I have to connect the living thing, this node is near, while if I look at this node, sorry, if I looked at this node, urban, tasteless and urban with the living thing, this node is very far. So the node which is near will be retrieved quickly, quicker, fast, but as the information is down, it will take some time to be verified, it will take some time to come back. Now reflecting the distantly linked nodes, activation can spread from one node to nearby node faster than it can spread more distant node. What does this mean? When the living thing is sending a node from living thing to the plant, to the animal, birds, fishes, this networking is faster, way faster than the more distant one, these networkings will take some more time. So what does this mean? Let us take an example. Tiger have stripes and tiger has lungs. So tiger is having a lungs, kidney, stomach, and also the tiger is having the stripes, the black stripes. How do we see the tiger? We do not, we know that animals are having lungs, all animals are having lungs, but we also know the attribute which these animals of the birds, the fish, the flower, the tree, there is a unique attribute attached to the to each and every species and attached to each and every plant. So, the unique characteristic of tiger is the stripe. The unique characteristic of zebra is black stripes on or white stripes rather than black stripes, you could say. Tiger and zebra are having black stripes. So, when we talk about these stripes, this is verified quicker because these are the unique characteristics. In order to process the tigers have lungs seems to be little far down the line. So, here also when we see living thing is a fish, or living things are of animal and plant, that is more near, that is more quick. Then the living things are fish, bird, and even in fish if we talk about then tuna, or then tuna is having gills and further down the line. Okay. So, the gills is way far from the living, but the animal is close to the living. So, there is an advantage over the distance. Something which is close, people can recall better, retrieve better, recognition becomes better, but when they are very distant then it becomes a little challenging. So, closer association leads to the faster verification time versus the nodes or the items which are way far away from the central point. Areas of left frontal lobe and the left medial temporal lobe were particularly active during the sentence verification, if this sentence is correct or not. So, such verification requires left prefrontal side and left medial temporal side. Left side of the brain is a logical brain, and for such verification task logic is required. As a result, these brain regions seems to have a priority or a preference over the other brain regions. When we talk about the world, when we talk about the lexical memory, the memory can be stored following the grammatical rule. However, it can also be formed based on the generalized knowledge about the event or a person or a situation, which we call it as a schema. So, there are a schema which is the generalized knowledge about the event or persona or a situation, and this in addition to the script, which is a learned sequence, provide an assistance in the form of semanticity to the memory information, which, and both of these concepts and idea aids to the semantic memory, which ensures that the robustness of the information in the semantic memory should be there for a long period of time. So, individual, when they are forming a memory, they generally make a general layout of the information. So, here schema and scripts, well learned pattern that organize information in memory. We discussed this thing in the perception also earlier several occasions, that perception is categorizing the information. So, based on schema and scripts, the information is being categorized and formed and stored. Schemas are pattern of connected information about a particular topic. So, we have seen this thing earlier about the living. So, we have a schema about the living entity. Living entities could be animal, could be plant. Animal could be having a schema and several categories such as two-legged animal, four-legged animal. And what is the distinction between the two-legged and four-legged animal? Scripts are well learned sequence of events which are associated with common activities. If you go to a restaurant, then you sit and you call for a waiter. There is a script. While going to the restaurant, there is a script required. You sit on a table, or you look for a table. Once you found a table, then you go order a food. Once you have ordered a food, then you eat a food, and then you pay the bill, you pay the tip, and then you go move to the next script. What is the next script? After having a nice meal, I will head towards my work, and after finishing my work, then I will head towards my home. After reaching home, then I will play with my kids. After playing with my kids, then I will go to bed, and next morning again my similar task will begin with. All these action and task which one is executing is a well written script and a well learned sequence by an individual. In this script, from time to time, from context to context, we do some modification. Once a schema is formed, it is useful in encoding new information. A schema about a living thing, a schema about fruit, a schema about vegetables, a schema about profession. So, this schema is a backbone upon which new information can be associated. So, Brewer and Trains in 1981 did a very simple experiment to understand in what scenario schema helps and in what scenario schema does not help, and is schema really helping an individual in the encoding process, in the storage process, and in retrieval. So, they did a very simple study where an office setting is being used, and here in the office setting some items which you can anticipate should be present in the office, they tried to place it. In addition to those office items placed in the area, along with that some violating items and irrelevant items were being also placed. So, in an office, what do we expect in an office? In our office, we expect files, we expect computers, we expect wardrobe with books, we expect table, chair, and this is exactly what you see here: chair, table, rack, books. This is what you expect. However, what is violating this schema? The skull, the bottle of alcohol, this section, the coffee machine, and these violating items seems to be remembered better. Why do they seem to be remembered better? Because of unique characteristics. These items are not supposed to be at the workplace setting, and because of their unique nature, unique characteristics, they are also going to be remembered as equivalent as the schema consistent items. Schema irrelevant items were less remembered. Some items you will not at all pay attention to because they are not at all related to it. So, some people have falsely remembered schema consistent items not present in the room. How these people are falsely remembering the items? They are falsely remembering the items because of the schema which they have in their internal mind or mental framework, and they know that these schemas should be present or consistent with the target stimuli. So, if the target stimuli lacks those items, then the participant tries to bring those elements because of his or her consolidated experience, and as a result there is a mismatch. As a result, they falsely remember the items because they assume in the office setting these things are expected, but what we do not expect in an office is irrelevant items. So, let me summarize here quickly what we have studied. We studied about the semantic memory, we studied about the semantic memory and lexical memory, memory which requires a grammar rule memory which requires a grammar principle. Hierarchy network model, we discussed how the hierarchy is being built, and not only the hierarchy but the projection, networking, how dense projection and networking is there. Lexical decision task, how people are making the decision making, the factors, parameters responsible for such lexical decision task. If any meaningful item Q is being presented related to the target item, then people remember better. If any semantic priming Q is not associated with the target letter, then the remembrance is being compromised. We even discussed about it, there is a sentence verification task. We have to verify if the sentences are correct or not, and if there is a mismatch, then the processing is going to be delayed. We also discussed about the knowledge of the world, that is a schema, and the script is required for an individual to store the information easily into their semantic memory system. Let me stop here, and in next lecture we will continue our understanding about the episodic and semantic memory. Thank you.